Vrindavan. And this is right when his moon cycle ended and the Mars cycle began. In Krishna's chart, Mars owns the 7th house. 7th house is the house of other people, people besides you. And this is where Krishna begins to develop relationships with a wider circle of people than just his mom and dad. Now, he's only 4 years old, but he's going out and playing all day long now at this point. It brings up an important point that you'll have to consider if you're going to understand the chronological cycles and how they operate in Krishna's case. In Vedic psychology, it's said that not everybody matures at the same rate. More advanced people mature faster. And we know this as well, we see this. Some baby, oh, my baby was walking at only 9 months old. Well, my son didn't speak until he was 2. Oh no, I'm so sad. He must not be a great person. So, more advanced beings mature faster. Krishna is said to mature at twice the rate of his chronological age. So at the time that he's 8, his physical and mental maturity, at the time that he's 4, his physical and mental maturity is as if he was 8, and so on. So prior to Krishna hitting puberty, his 7th house lord began its cycle. And so this would express itself in him having relationships with a lot of friends. But during the cycle of the 7th house lord, Krishna hit puberty. And thereafter, this 7th lord really started to express itself in the romantic sense that we're more familiar with as the 7th house, marriage, relationships. To explain Krishna's puberty is actually pretty important to understand who he is. It was right around Krishna's 5th year, which would be his 10th year of development, that Mars and Rahu became active. Rahu being the sub-cycle, and Mars being the major cycle lord. Rahu is the planet of transformations and radical physical changes. And Rahu occupies Krishna's 7th house. This is setting up a strong puberty to take place. A person is going to become very interested in the opposite sex. The next cycle following Rahu is always Jupiter. And so when Krishna was about 6 years old, chronologically speaking, which means he's 12 developmentally, at that time we have Mars, Jupiter happening. Jupiter is in Krishna's 11th house. So from the 11th house, Jupiter will always aspect the 7th. The 7th being the house of relationships. Rahu is in the 7th. Jupiter is in the 11th. So Jupiter is the planet of the reproductive chakra. So Krishna's puberty is happening right where his Rahu in the 7th house, and right where his Jupiter, the reproductive chakra, are having their planetary cycles. So it's showing that this boy is going to really become a man. He's going to really have a powerful puberty. Krishna actually became sexually active in Saturn's sub-cycle of Mars' cycle. Saturn and Mars together for Krishna is very important. Saturn is in his 6th house. So when Saturn is in the 6th house, it will always aspect the 8th and the 12th and the 3rd. Those are all 3 the sexual houses in a horoscope. The 3rd is the house of lust. The 8th is the house of your sexuality and your sexual charisma. And the 12th is the house of the actual pleasure or displeasure that you can enjoy in sex. So Saturn for Krishna is very connected with all these 3 areas simultaneously. Saturn was the sublord, Mars was the overlord, the major lord of the chronological cycle. Mars for Krishna is in his 9th house. When Mars is in the 9th house, it will always aspect the 12th and the 3rd. So here's a major combination. You have the 2 planets, Mars and Saturn, are both affecting the 12th house and the 3rd house. Both of them are also passionate and connected to lower chakras, Saturn being connected to the lowest chakra. So this is the time in Krishna's life when he became adolescent. He became pubescent. He started to become interested in girls and started to become very adventurous about that. Now, Saturn also being in his 6th house created another thing. Remember the last time we had a 6th house planet come up, Krishna moved. his family moved from Gokul to Vrindavan. Now again we have a strong sixth house planet coming up, and again we have his family moving for the same reason. They spent a few years in Vrindavan, and then again all these enemies came and found Krishna and started attacking him, trying to kill him again and again. So after a while, at this point when the Saturn cycle came up, sixth house of enemies, Krishna's parents said, look, we have to deal with these enemies again. We're going to move again. But this time, they wound up moving to a place that we now know called Nandagram, which is a very beautiful hill near the famous Govardhan Hill, which put Krishna in the neighborhood of the love of his life, Srimati Radharani. So, at the same time as his hitting puberty and becoming pubescent, his family moves him into close proximity with his true love, Radharani. So this is really setting up the next phase of his life.
So, it may sound strange talking about God and at the same time talking about puberty and whatnot. But don't forget that God, first of all, took a human incarnation, so to speak, and therefore displays his activities according to the blueprint of human life. Or from another angle, human life is nothing but a drama based on the blueprint of his life. You have to consider what is the meaning of life. And when you understand what the meaning of life is, you'll understand clearly why God is romantic and sexual. The meaning of life is not so difficult to figure out. And if you study Vedanta philosophy, you may expect that you're going to get some kind of really complicated and far-out sounding answer to what is the meaning of life. But the answer that the Vedas give is Anandamaya Vyasa, which is a real simple answer. It means life is made out of bliss, and life is supposed to be blissful, and that is the meaning of life. If you understand that this is the meaning of life, that the meaning of life is happiness and pleasure and bliss, then you understand the meaning of God. God is the supreme life. So if life is meant for bliss, then God's life must be the embodiment of the supreme bliss. Ultimately, the true bliss of life is not a material sense gratification, but it's a spiritual, unconditional love. Love is the highest type of pleasure. And therefore, love is the ultimate meaning of life. And so, to have an idea of God or the supreme life, which doesn't include his romance, is really the idea which is startling. It's stark. God must have better romance than anything we've previously known. Otherwise, how is he God? How is he understanding and experiencing the supreme joy of life? And this principle is the primary reason why Krishna was born, why he incarnated himself specifically to illustrate that specific theological point, that life is meant for pleasure, and Krishna is showing how God really enjoys. So now we can take a look